We are back. By we, I mean you and I. So let's continue. You know, the little creatures that have snuggled up to Trump early on, and like some kind of, I don't know, like something out of a 1950s horror movie, anybody that gets close enough to Trump gets absorbed. Remember the movie Steve McQueen was in when he was very young? It was called The Blob. Anybody remember that? It came out in the 50s. I think it was the 50s, late 50s. I remember seeing it. Scared the hell out of me. I must have been very young. But anybody who gets close to Trump is absorbed into this mass of deceit and dishonor and cowardice and bullshit. And until Trump has fully assimilated that former human being into Trump's mindset, and then that person is pushed out of the blob to go do the damage. You know, Trump can't be everywhere. He has his minions out there doing as much damage and causing as much destruction as possible. But one of the chief political minions outside of the U.S. Congress is Ron DeSantis, this crazy little son of a bitch who is the governor of Florida. He has he is now threatening local TV stations. I don't know what he's going to do to back up his threat, but he's threatening these local TV stations that they must remove their ads about this measure that is up for election on a state referendum about the abortion ballot measure. In other words, the people of Florida are going to decide whether or not they want to continue with this bullshit that these Christian demons put together in Tallahassee, and then the special little Catholic Christian demon Ron DeSantis signed into law. Florida has a 6-week abortion ban, the same as we have here in this fucked up state. And it's one of the strictest, along with Georgia's, strictest in the country. And the DeSantis administration recently had its election police, its election police unit, investigate people. Now, hear me on this. This is how close we are. Investigate people who had signed a petition to get this so-called Amendment 4 on the ballot. Amendment 4 is to enshrine into the Florida Constitution a woman's right to sovereignty over her own body. Then, the DeSantis crime family used taxpayer money to launch an anti-abortion website. And then, the DeSantis administration used state money to air these insane ads proclaiming Florida cares about women and families. I mean, George Orwell, please continue to rest easy wherever you are. I know when you hear shit like that in this dimension that you now exist in, I'm just kidding, George Orwell, you probably go out of your fucking mind and accuse these people of plagiarism, which I wouldn't fault you a bit for doing so. So anyway, now the DeSantis administration is trying to intimidate people who have run an ad that promotes a yes vote on Amendment 4 in Florida. Now, this is courtesy of Jahan Jones at MSNBC, who wrote about this. A woman says in the ad, and the ad is titled Caroline. This is a pro Amendment 4, in other words, a pro-woman ad. And the ad says this, quote, "The doctors knew if I did not end my pregnancy, I would lose my baby, I would lose my life, and my daughter would lose her mom. Florida has now banned abortion even in cases like mine," end quote. But isn't that just so typically Christian horseshit? You know, I've said it to the point where you're sick of hearing me say it. The most destructive force in the history of the human race, in my humble opinion, has been religion. And specifically, for the past 1,800 years, this Christian demonology that says to women, fuck you. You brought death to us good men. So they invent a God that says to women, all right, bitches, you're going to suffer for what you did. I told you not to eat the fucking pomegranate. Didn't I? I told you not to do it. You did it anyway. And you woke Adam up. Well, guess what? You're going to suffer, bitch. And I'm going to give you an extra 6 or 7 years of life so you can suffer even more than the men do. I mean, what kind of sick shit is this? But this is what every single law regarding a woman's right to privacy and sovereignty over her own body is based upon. Christian horse shit. Every law. Oh, deep breath. Anyway, in Florida, an investigative journalist named Jason Garcia published a letter from the Florida Department of Health's General Counsel. Florida Department of Health, which is run by an insane fucker. The chief health officer in Florida is a crazy goddamn man that Ron DeSantis appointed because he's crazy. A letter came from the general counsel of the Department of Health to the general manager of WFLA TV. That's an NBC affiliate in Tampa. The letter dated October 3rd. This is October 9. October 3rd, argues that the ad contains, quote, a categorically false claim about abortion in Florida, and the ad is in violation of state law. This is what the letter reads verbatim, quote, this advertisement is not only false, it is dangerous. Women faced with pregnancy complications, posing a serious risk of death or substantial irreversible physical impairment, may and should seek immediate medical treatment in Florida, end quote. And this is another reason that I have finally come out of the ether and realized that Christianity is one of the most hypocritical, vile, destructive thought processes a human being can possibly sink into. Now, in Florida, the law is nowhere near what this statement, this letter to WFLA supposedly reads, even though the law includes exceptions for rape and incest. Oh, yeah, they always put that in there. The law is also so vague that when confronted with a woman's emergency, where she runs the risk of bleeding out, I think the term is, or becoming septic, suffering from sepsis, blood poisoning, because she's now carrying a terribly dead or decaying or dying parasite inside of her. At that moment, a doctor has to make a decision as to whether or not to go ahead and do a procedure that is called an abortion and run the risk of his or her going to prison for doing what the medical treatment teaches every single doctor to do. But now, because of these Christian fucking morons like Ron DeSantis, the doctor is faced with a real Hobson's choice. What do I do? What do I do? Either way, it could be wrong. On this side, the woman may die. Maybe she won't. On this side, maybe I'll go to prison. Maybe I won't. This is what the Christian devils have set up for doctors to deal with. So, since the law has confused doctors, it's had a chilling effect among the providers who are responsible for first do no harm and to take care of their patients. The problem has been so glaring that the DeSantis administration has threatened doctors, and they threaten television stations, threaten doctors who don't provide emergency care in these confusing scenarios, which are only confusing and occurring because of the law that DeSantis signed into place. So the doctors now are in a hellish position. DeSantis has said, if you don't do the operation and the woman's about to die, well, we're going to charge you with something. And if you do the operation, we're going to charge you with something else. I mean, in another letter Mr. Garcia, the investigative journalist, Jason Garcia, that he posted online. Lawyers for the group sponsoring Amendment 4 to protect women defended the ad as true and urged a Florida TV station to continue carrying it. The lawyers for this Amendment 4 group wrote, quote, "The Florida Department of Health's letter is a flagrant abuse of power and must be rejected," end quote. So what this filthy little Christian pig, Ron DeSantis, is doing is attempting to hide the hideous impacts of this fucking law that the Christians in the Florida legislature wrote as a bill, and Ron DeSantis, this Catholic insane person, signed into law. They want to keep all of it from public view. And the worst thing that can happen is what has happened, as far as DeSantis is concerned, and that is a group put together a constitutional amendment for the people of Florida to vote on. Oh, my God. It just never stops, does it? Never stops. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. You know, the Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.